Well, here we are. Alright guys, before I get into the video, just one thing that I'd like to say. I'm going to be on ESPN Plus tomorrow commentating FAU going against FIU women's basketball games. So if you'd like to see your boy on the grand stage, tune in ESPN Plus 7 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday. And yeah, I'm going to be on the commentating team there, and I'm super excited to do that. So if you got ESPN Plus, please go check that out tomorrow at 7 o'clock. But like I said in the intro, here we are. Miami Dolphins fall to the Los Angeles Chargers in LA, Sunday Night Football, 23-17. And I was thinking about doing a regular review. We're just going over the game as a whole because there's a lot of things that we could talk about. How the run game still stinks, about how the defensive line played incredible, but the secondary can't stay with their men, about how Josh Boyer is seeming more and more incompetent by the day. All are good points. All are true. But watching that game yesterday, there is only one thing that really matters that really stood out to me. That's the difference between Tua and Justin Herbert. Now, as Dolphins fans, we love to support our quarterback. Some love to hate our quarterback. But I've been a big Tua fan up until towards the end of last year, where things started to kind of click for me. And I try to look at myself as a bridge between the two extremes. I don't think Tua is... I don't think we should have drafted Tua with the 5th overall pick. Obviously, at this point, it is clear it should have been Justin Herbert. I don't think he's a top 5. Quite frankly, I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. But at the same time, you can definitely win games. And if circumstances go right, you can win your division. You can win playoff games. Who knows how far that gets you with Tua Tagovailoa. Both things can be true. But there is clear limitations in Tua's play that affected the team yesterday. So it was 10 of 28, buck 45, a touchdown, sacked twice, QBR 24. That passer rating that we've loved to brag about all year long, 65 passer rating. Now, Donovan's about to come on here, probably tomorrow, maybe the day after, and just yell and scream about how nothing's Tua's fault, everything is everybody else's fault, and that's that. That's just not the case. Tua, while he isn't a horrible quarterback. I want to make that especially clear. Tua is not a horrible quarterback. Tua is not a bad quarterback. But the things that Tua lacks ends up costing us in big moments, and is why I'm afraid with how far he can take us with this team. I am still content with him as our quarterback. I'm not saying he should not be the Miami Dolphins quarterback. I'm not saying we should look to replace him in the offseason. But it's true that this team might have a limitation based off what he can bring us. Justin Herbert, watching him yesterday, Christian Wilkins tore up their offensive line. Jalen Phillips tore up their offensive line. One of the bright spots of the game yesterday was how the defensive line handled the offensive line of the Chargers. A bad offensive line with some injuries on it. Not perfect. Our defensive line handled them. They ate all over them. Christian Wilkins had probably his best quarter as a Dolphin. How many times he was in the backfield yesterday in the first quarter against the Chargers. And Jalen Phillips in the second half, off the right side of the offensive line, was killing it. But Herbert still was able to make plays. Herbert was still able to make things work. Herbert, 367, a touchdown, 39 and 51. They trust him when things aren't going right, when the team's not perfect, to go out there and ball. He hasn't had a perfect season. He doesn't have a good coach, in my opinion. Now, I think Staley and Lombardi had one of their better games as Chargers personnel, but they're still far from perfect. They really can't draw plays in the red zone. They really struggle against us in the red zone. They coach just about as good as I've ever seen the two of them coach. And I've really been big against Brandon Staley, saying I can't wait to see this Chargers team with Sean Payton, with some other brilliant offensive mind. Because with Brandon Staley, with what they've got there running out with, it's not good enough. But Herbert continues to make it work, to get things done. And part of that is just simply he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he's got a better arm than a lot of these quarterbacks. And all of those things are true when you look at him compared to Tua. When he faced Christian Wilkins, when he faced Jalen Phillips, when he faced Bradley Chubb, he handled it with a lot of poise. There wasn't a lot of bad throws by Justin Herbert really all night long. And there was pressure pretty much all night long. He had to face the defensive line that we were able to throw at him all night long. And he made play after play, 39-51, 367 yards, getting the win. And Tua, our offensive line, beat up. Toronto Armstead ailing 2 injuries now. You have Brandon Shell at right tackle. You have Robert Jones at left guard. 2 guys that I never want to see starting for the Dolphins. Jones or Shell at right tackle, he's had his moments, but I do not want to see him at right tackle for the foreseeable future. Tua had pressure. Tua tried to scramble. Tua tried to make things work, but that's just not what he can do. Tua requires a clean pocket. Tua requires his guys to be schemed open. He's not going to throw people open. He's not going to make an athletic play and make somebody miss. It's just not who he is. And as long as you accept that, as long as you know that's not what Tua is, then hey, that's okay. I'm not gonna sit here and argue. As long as you know that Tua is not this magnificent playmaker like even Jalen Hurts is, and even over that, Mahomes, Allen, Herbert last night. As long as you know that's not what Tua is, then I don't really have a problem with you. But people are kind of gotten a little giddy with what we've seen from Tua this year against some subpar defenses. And we've seen some of what we've seen last season where the circumstances were certainly not the best. And Tua deserved a little bit of excuses because of what he had at his disposal. The coaching staff was against him. The offensive line played like they were against him. And he was throwing to absolutely nobody. And he had no running game. He still does not have a running game this year. Dolphins' situation is not literally perfect. But I don't know how much more you can ask for than having one of the best young offensive minds in the league as your head coach, Tyreek Hill as your wide receiver, Jalen Waddle as your wide receiver. Go out and get Toronto Armstead. They did everything they could to back Tua, and Tua has produced. We're at 8-5 with Tua this year. We're the 6th seed with Tua this year. There's much worse places to be. But eventually you do want to look at it as, where is this team going to go with Tua as quarterback? Again, I am not saying to move off of Tua. It is just food for thought. What is the max this team can do when Tua is making $35 million a year? When Tua is making $40 million a year? Look how the quarterback market is looking. When he's making that much money, you can't just willy-nilly go out and get a left tackle. You can't just go drop $30 million on a star receiver. What's his team going to look like? We can definitely make it work this year, next year, and his 5th-year option year. We can go out and sign some offensive linemen, maybe go get a marquee running back, maybe a Tony Pollard, use the draft picks that we do still have that we haven't traded away, and build up a really solid team. And who knows, maybe we can win the Super Bowl with Tua, with this coaching staff, with these players. Maybe. But I'm concerned. I am concerned about what the future of this team is with Tua at quarterback. It just stands out like a sore thumb on film. He's slower. He's less athletic. His arm doesn't pop. I mean, Justin Herbert, the ability to roll right just as casual as can be and drop it over the top into Mike Williams' hands. It's art. It's beautiful. I love watching it. His release is a bit mechanical at times, but his play is so beautiful. And he can make plays out of nothing. I don't see that with Tua. I don't see the ability to scramble out of the pocket. Now he picked up some yards on the ground yesterday. He picked up some rush. He picked up a couple first downs, 1 or 2 first downs on the run. Great. I'm not saying he's immobile. I'm not saying he's unathletic. But when you have to go into the playoffs and look at the quarterbacks in the AFC, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert's on the doorstep, Lamar Jackson when he gets healthy, playmakers everywhere, where the other team can scheme up to defend all the guys you have running around. Okay, well, our guy can then go make a play and break that scheme, can break that coverage. Not getting that from Tua. And now we've seen against a really good defense in the 49ers and a defense that played very well yesterday in the Chargers, they just figured out play cover 2 all game long, and the Dolphins can't really have an answer for it. 2 fluke plays for touchdowns. Tyreek Hill picks up a fumble that Armstead just says, here you go. And I mean, the ball down the sideline, it was a good pass. He has his moments. It was a good pass. Tyreek Hill is one of the best receivers in the league, offensive player of the year. Those are going to happen. But when Justin Herbert has all the pressure in his face, where in recent weeks he's had neither of his 2-star receivers, where his star left tackle is out for the season, still crawled his way to 500 coming into this game, and now is 7-6 on the doorstep of the playoffs in a difficult division. We all know it's not what it was meant to be, but Herbert gets it done. And Tua, I don't know how much he's just going to be able to get it done. It concerns me. It definitely concerns me. And this is just meant to be an honest conversation. I don't think we should go out and replace Tua or start the process to replace Tua today. We've won games. We've had great moments. He's looked good. He was in the MVP conversation 3 weeks ago. He's had his moments. He is a good quarterback. But we need to understand, him being a good quarterback is 12 to 15 in the league. He's not better than Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, even some of the older guys, Rodgers and Brady. I'd trust more right now. Adam, if you guys watched the live stream yesterday, this was just after the live stream, he asked me if I'd rather take Caleb Williams today. If I could replace Tua with Caleb Williams today, oh, jeez. Yes. Not even a question. Today. Trevor Lawrence has a lot more talent, and he's finally starting to put it together with that team. And they still have a long way to go before they can seriously compete, but Trevor Lawrence has taken the necessary steps in year 2, as well as just having all this God-given talent to make him look like a top NFL quarterback one day. Tua does not have some of the God-given things. He wasn't born with a popping arm. He wasn't born with 6'5" frame. Not able to run a 4.5 40 as a QB. It's just not who he is. And as long as you understand that, and as long as you understand going into games, there's going to be a lot of times where we have the second best quarterback. There's going to be a lot of games where we have a quarterback that isn't going to be able to just make plays and wins the game. If you can understand that and you can accept that, and I'm kind of teetering, I'm accepting it for now. As long as we can accept it for now, and as long as we can get to the playoffs and we see what happens with there, I'll be okay with it. God forbid this team misses the playoffs this year. I think it might be done.